Hello, and welcome back, everybody, to the altar of burnt offerings. I'm back to Exodus, and we're back to building the infrastructure of Israel and the laws. And all the thoughts that they have today come from the things that they did on these days. Can, I want to say confine the people, right? But when you make rules, you do confine people. And you force them into certain actions and choices, right? But I don't know. We know that right? I know that we have the knowledge that they didn't listen. So maybe we need to look at how they got to where they got, so we can learn to not. Not that we can't follow in God's footsteps, but like, if the people that God chose misstepped, maybe don't follow their footsteps. Seems like a good start. Alright, chapter 27. You shall make an altar of acacia wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits wide. The altar shall be square, and its height shall be 3 cubits. You shall make its horns on its 4 corners. Its horns shall be of one piece with it, and you shall overlay it with bronze. Also you shall make its pans to receive its ashes, and its shovels, and its basins, and its forks, and its fire pans. You shall make all its utensils of bronze. Right, because they might come up later and I might look like an idiot, but they use up all the gold, they use up all the silver, and now they're down to bronze. Or maybe they just don't care about that stuff. Or maybe it needed to be that way, right? The melting point for gold, I think, is lower than like silver and that, so you wouldn't be able to use it if you were like poking fires with it sometimes. But who knows? It's metal at the end of the day. You shall make a grate for it, a network of bronze, and of the network you shall make 4 bronze rings at its 4 corners, and you shall put under the rim of the altar beneath, that the network may be midway up the altar. And you shall make poles for the altar, poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with bronze. I want to know their process for overlaying wood with metal. Or is that just creating like a cast and like beating that metal into the shape around the pole? Maybe. Who knows? Moses does. The poles shall be put in the rings, and the pole shall be on the 2 sides of the altar to bear it. You shall make it hollow with boards, as it is shown you on the mountain, so you shall make it. The court of the tabernacle. So now they're creating a court. So they have an altar now, right, where they do burnt offerings, which is good, and it's made of bronze, and it's not going anywhere. Hold on 1 second. I know this is really unprofessional. um so the burnt offerings, which the offering and showing the respect thereof, right, I get. But then when like a pagan does that, right, that's witchcraft. So where do we draw the line? Oh yeah, we don't do it much anymore, right? It's not a Christian. I've never been inside of a Christian church that is burning offerings. It's more of like a Catholic thing that I've seen that they would have, right? So I think we may have lost that tradition. But they're building a court next. So 9. You shall also make the court of the tabernacle. For the south side there shall be hangings for the court made of fine woven linen, 100 cubits long for one side, and its 20 pillars and their 20 sockets shall be bronze. The hooks of the pillars and their bands shall be silver. We got a little bit of silver left over. Likewise, along the length of the north side there shall be hangings 100 cubits long, with its 20 pillars and their 20 sockets of bronze, and the hooks of the pillars and their bands of silver. And along the width of the court on the west side shall be hangings of 50 cubits, with their 10 pillars and their 10 sockets. The width of the court on the east side shall be 50 cubits, and the hangings on one side of the gate shall be 15 cubits, with their 3 pillars and their 3 sockets. And on the other side shall be hangings of 15 cubits, with their 3 pillars and their 3 sockets. For the gate of the court there shall be a screen 20 cubits long, woven of blue, purple, and scarlet thread, and fine woven linen made by a weaver. It shall have 4 pillars and 4 sockets. All the pillars around the court shall have bands of silver. Their hooks shall be of silver, and their sockets of bronze. The length of the court shall be 100 cubits, the width 50 throughout, and the height 5 cubits, made of fine woven linen, and its sockets of bronze. The care of the lampstand. To hold the light. It's very important to hold the light properly. And you shall command the children of Israel that they bring you pure oil of pressed olives for the light, to cause the lamp to burn continually. In the tabernacle of meeting, outside the veil which is before the testimony, Aaron and his sons shall tend from evening until morning before the Lord. It shall be a statute forever to their generations on behalf of the children of Israel. This is going to be a wild theory. So if you've ever watched Yu-Gi-Oh, and this is even like CW and shows that were made, right, and how they might have influence, but like Malik, who is a character in the show, right, who's eventually a bad guy he tries to trap everybody at one point in the Shadow Realm. But his purpose was to protect God, in their case in the show, right? Or what his family told him is God. And it is interesting, right, to be chosen by God, and then your entire life and all your generations to come, like, locked in as to be flame tenders. And now they're outfitting their priests in garb. Now take Aaron your brother and his sons with him from among the children of Israel, that he may minister to me as priest, Aaron's and Aaron's sons, Nabab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. And you shall make holy garments for Aaron your brother, for glory and for beauty. You shall speak to all who are gifted artisans, who I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they may make Aaron's garments to consecrate him, that he may minister to me as priest. And these are the garments which they shall make: a breastplate of ephod, a robe, a skillfully woven tunic, a turban, and a sash. So they shall make holy garments for Aaron your brother and his sons, that they may minister to me as priest. So Aaron and his family are the only ones that like talk to God and go into the altar and the tabernacle, because they're the only ones that would have respect for it like 100% of the time, probably. Because, I mean, God knows what would happen, so he's setting all this up for a reason. So, the ephod. They shall take gold, purple, blue, and scarlet thread, and the fine linen, and they shall make the ephod of gold, blue, purple, and scarlet thread, and fine woven linen, artistically worked. It shall have 2 shoulder straps joined at its 2 edges, and so it shall be joined together. And an intricately woven band of the ephod which is on it shall be of the same workmanship, made of gold, blue, purple, and scarlet thread, and fine woven linen. Then you shall take 2 onyx stones and engrave on them the names of the sons of Israel, 6 of their names on one stone, and 6 of the names on the other stone, in the order of their birth. With the work of the engraver in stone, like the engravings of a signet, you shall engrave the 2 stones with the names of the sons of Israel. You shall set them in settings of gold. And you shall put the 2 stones on the shoulders of the ephod as memorial stones for the sons of Israel. So Aaron shall bear their names before the Lord on his 2 shoulders as a memorial. You shall also make settings of gold. You shall make 2 chains of pure gold like braided cords, and fasten the 2 braided chains to the settings. Wow. It is very intricate. And like I said last episode, God's an architect. To your best plate. We have outfitted the priests, and maybe we're outfitting everybody else. You shall make the breastplate of judgment, artistically woven according to the workmanship of the ephod, and you shall make it of gold, blue, purple, and scarlet thread. Hold up. I know this is way too late to be doing this, but what does ephod in Bible? Ephod refers to a vestment typically made of, so it's the outfit. Gotcha. It shall be doubled into a square. A span shall be its length, and a span shall be its width. You shall put settings of stone on it, 4 rows of stone. The first row shall be sardius, a topaz, and an emerald. This shall be the first row. The second row shall be a turquoise, a sapphire, and a diamond. The third row, a jacinth, an agate, and an amethyst. The fourth row, a beryl, an onyx, and a jasper. They shall be set in gold settings. And the stones shall have the names of the sons of Israel, 12 according to their name, like the engravings of the signet, each one with its own name. They shall be according to the 12 tribes. You shall make chains for the breastplate at the end like braided cords of pure gold. And you shall make 2 rings of gold for the breastplate, and put the 2 rings at the 2 ends of the breastplate. And then you shall put the 2 braided chains of gold in the 2 rings which are on the end of the breastplate. The other 2 ends of the braided chains you shall fasten to the 2 settings, and put them on the shoulder straps of the ephod in the front. You shall make 2 rings of gold, and put them on the 2 ends of the breastplate, on the edge of it which is on the inner side of the ephod. And 2 other rings of gold you shall make, and put them on the 2 shoulder straps underneath the ephod toward its front, right at the seam above the intricately woven band on the ephod. They shall bind the breastplate by means of its rings to the rings of the ephod, using a blue cord, so that it is above the intricately woven band of the ephod, so that the breastplate does not come loose from the ephod. So Aaron shall bear the names of the sons of Israel on the breastplate of judgment over his heart, where he goes into the holy place as a memorial before the Lord continually. And you shall put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and the Thummim, and they shall be over Aaron's heart when he goes in before the Lord. So Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel over his heart before the Lord continually. The lights, that is an ornamented vest. Other priestly garments, other things. So is this for like, because Giving people things, at the end of the day, as sad as this statement may be to me, when you give people things, regardless of what it is, sometimes it makes them feel better than other people, right? And then they start acting differently. And then, well, I guess, right, when you're God and the Israelites, you're like, why are you doing that? But who knows? He knew at the end of the matter. And he had to deal with it. I don't know. You shall make the robe of the ephod all of blue. There shall be an opening for his head in the middle of it. Were they making ephods without neck holes? It shall have a woven binding all around its opening, like the opening in a coat of mail, so that it does not tear. Wow. That's a design. And upon its hem you shall make pomegranates. I've never used pomegranate like that. You shall make pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet all around its hem, and bells of gold between all around them. A gold bell and a pomegranate. A golden bell and a pomegranate. What does pomegranate mean when used in context of an ephod in the Bible? In the biblical context of the ephod, pomegranates, along with bells, were used to decorate elements of the hem on the high priest's garment. While often associated with the symbolic meaning like fertility, abundance, and the 613 commandments, their primary purpose on the ephod was to create a visual and auditory display of the priest's service. The bells and pomegranates were interwoven, creating a beautiful and distinctive garment. The bells signaled the priest's presence and activity, while the pomegranates added to the garment's visual appeal. I think there were beads, because pomegranates, if you open them up, they're like the seeds, but the pomegranates are like bead size. So maybe with beads. Okay. And it shall be upon Aaron when he ministers, and its sound shall be heard when he goes into the holy place before the Lord, and when he comes out, that he may not die. Right. You shall also make a plate of pure gold and engrave on it like the engraving of the signet, holiness to the Lord. And you shall put it on a blue cord, that it may be on the turban, and it shall be on the front of the turban. So it shall be on Aaron's forehead, that Aaron may bear the iniquity of the holy things which the children of Israel hallow in all their holy gifts. And it shall always be on his forehead, that they may be accepted before the Lord. You shall skillfully weave the tunic of fine linen, threaded. You shall make the turban of fine linen, and you shall make the sash of woven work. For Aaron's sons you shall make tunics, and you shall make sashes for them, and you shall make hats for them for glory and beauty. You shall put them on Aaron your brother, and on his sons with him. You shall anoint them, consecrate them, and sanctify them, that they may minister to me as priests. And you shall make for them linen trousers, to cover their nakedness, that they shall reach from the waist to the thighs. They got shorts. They shall be on Aaron and on his sons when they come into the tabernacle of meeting, or when they come near the altar to minister in the holy place, that they do not that they do not incur iniquity and die. It shall be a statute forever to him and his descendants after him. To know that even God doesn't want to see you naked. He said, put some pants on. Oh, that's funny. So everybody's getting outfitted. It's feeling like we're getting ready for, like, God is training all his new associates. And they're gonna do great. They're gonna do great things. That's funny. So, what did we learn? Don't care about what you wear. I mean, this doesn't happen anymore, as far as I know, right? I don't live in Israel. They could do this still over there. Maybe someone does. There was a group called the essenes, or the essenes. I'm just making that up. The essenes. And they were a group that was but one of the three groups, the ruling groups at the time in Judea when Jesus was alive. And I think it was the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes, if I'm not mistaken. And those were the three ruling classes, and they each had kind of different things that they looked over, and nobody really talked to the Essenes, and they were more of like to themselves, more like monk-like, if you will, like the Buddhist monks. They just kind of kept to themselves and did holy things. They exist today as the Mandeans. Let me check that. The Mandeans and the Essenes were two distinct Jewish groups with some shared practices and beliefs, but they also had significant differences. The Essenes were a Jewish sect that existed in Palestine and Syria, known for their ascetic lifestyle and adherence to strict moral codes. The Mandeans, on the other hand, were a Gnostic group who lived in Mesopotamia, with the history traced back to Judea. Do the Essenes exist today? The Essenes, as a distinct religious sect, are not believed to exist today. Their community, centered in Qumran, disappeared around 70 A.D., right after all the apostles were on their way out and doing their thing, honestly, right, for Jesus. Like, this was like maybe 30 years into the ministry. John was writing all this stuff. Saul was doing stuff, I think. Right? Paul then. And Peter. And they were doing all their acts, you know. It's all in that time. Around after the destruction of Jerusalem and the settlement of Qumran. However, their influence on various religions and philosophical traditions, such as Mandaism and the Jewish Christianity, is still studied and debated. While there isn't direct evidence of continuous Essene lineage, some scholars suggest that their teachings may have influenced other groups or individuals in the following centuries. For example, some researchers suggest that John the Baptist may have been influenced by Essene practices and beliefs, which is why I think that John the Baptist and Jesus were both part of the group. They both had the same doctrine at the end of the day, right? John was just leading the way for him. While there isn't direct evidence of continuing... Additionally, some argue that the Essenes' commitment to scripture, community, and spiritual goals is reflected in various Christian communities throughout history. Rather than simply a direct influence, ultimately, the exact fate of the Essenes after the community of the Qumran was destroyed remains a subject of ongoing research. The Tree of Life Foundation, the modern Essenes. The Essene archetype is a very intriguing, inspiring ideal. They were and now are the frequency of enlightenment for the transformation of healing of self and the planet. The ancient Essenes were historically recognized as the mystical Jewish prophets of the desert. They considered themselves in their terms the holy ones of God. It is no accident that the term Essene comes from the northern Aramaic word chazia, which means saint in Greek. I don't know if I pronounced that right. It was Chasya, which was the way they were perceived by the general population. Oh, so everybody thought the Essenes to be saints because they didn't do anything. From the time of Hanok, they were also known as B'nai Aliyah, the children of ascension. That's a wild name. Many of the early Jewish followers of Jesus were also Essene. It is also strongly suggested historically that Mary's parents, Joachim and Anna, Jesus' parents, Mary and Joseph, his brothers James and John the Baptist were also Essene. In 2007, at an Easter talk, Pope Benedict the 76th, 76, I think, something like that. I don't know. Somebody tell me in the comments. If you've made it this far, right? Tell me in the comments. Acknowledge that the home where Jesus had his last meal was an Essene home, and his second volume of Jesus of Nazarene in 2011 mentions the Essenes in general and in specific in the context of Jesus' Last Supper. This suggests that Jesus was clearly associated with the Essenes if he was not formally trained as an Essene, as some historians suggest, which I've read things as similar, which has led me to here, which is why we're talking. So all of that had to happen for this to happen. He was at least close to them in some spiritual and lifestyle alignment. The Essenes existed is first mentioned about 500 BC after the fall of the first temple in 586 BC in Pythagoras' biography, which the Pythagorean theorem, I think. But yeah, he's a Greek mathematician. He studied them on Mount Carmel and came down enlightened as a teacher of live foods. These were called the Galilean Essenes of the north, where Jesus came from. The Galilean Essenes were also given the name Nazarenes, as was Jesus. Wow. So they were just living their best lives. So maybe at some point I will go in more in depth to these scenes at some point. It's very interesting. I mean, and it does, if you read some of their stuff, it lines up pretty spot on with their ideals and whatnot. But at the same time, not. And it's also interesting to see the Pope commenting on the Essenes. But just I don't know, not to say, right? I don't know. But the general Christian population that I know about maybe wouldn't even know about the Essenes, right? And if you told them about them, it would give them an opportunity for them to learn. So, thank God that we're learning today, and we have opportunities to learn and grow and help people and live your best life for God. So, have a good day. Stay safe. Find some peace.